So, okay, yeah. So we talked about definition of ready, definition of done, and how important they are in writing a proper user story. What's your understanding as a Scrum Master of acceptance criteria? How do you see acceptance criteria?
So acceptance criteria means anybody like the developer or the product owner, right, or the testers. When the developer is developing the particular piece of product, right, they need to make sure that that particular scenarios they consider, and they make sure they have the test for this and that should pass. That is the starting point, right? That's a minimum testing required. So we need to make sure that those acceptance criteria are satisfied before we go further and test more, right? So as a testers, they will make sure that, okay, is this criteria is accepted? For example, if I need to add address for my client, right? So line number one, line number two, then we have city, then we have a state, and we have a zip code, right? So it should save all this data into the database. Now, acceptance criteria, right? We can write down one. If they have all the proper detail, right, in the proper format, then you should save it. Now, another acceptance criteria that, okay, we should not take alphabet in the zip code, right? Third one, we should not take numbers into the state or in the city. So those are the acceptance criteria which they can make sure that everything is satisfied, and it should not break any existing functionality when you do the regression testing. Right. So this starting point, make sure this is minimum is done in the product.
It's basically like a minimum checklist of expectations from a particular thing.
Story.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. And the product owner is responsible for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And sometime when you groom the story, right, there are some time where the testers can also ask them, can you make sure you add this, or sometime developer request them, but it is on and definitely done by the PO, but they can always take people's input.
What is kind of like a Scrum Master's role in this scenario, in this whole DOR, DOD, this acceptance criteria? Where does a Scrum Master fit in? What does a Scrum Master do? He makes sure everything goes smooth, or
so when you start the team, right?
Yeah.
None of them is there when you start a new team, right?
Yeah.
So to bring the team together, make sure there's a process established, and the main thing is you have to be consistent, right? You have to go long way, right? You have to be consistently delivering and sustaining your productivity long run. For example, if somebody is running 100-meter, he can do in 4 or 5 seconds. But let's say if he do in 5 second 100-meter, is that means he will do 1000 in 500 or 5000 seconds? No, right? Because it's a long run and you cannot continue that 4 seconds per 100 meters, right? So for sustaining longer, you cannot stretch everything you have, right? You have to take it something into the consideration that you have to live longer, you have to sustain longer, so you have to deliver little less so you can survive longer. Right. So you also need to consider that part for going forward, the sustainability. Right.
Yeah. And less employee turnover and things like that. Stable team.
Yeah. Stability. That's true.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, what is a sprint goal? What was your most recent sprint goal in your team?
Okay. So sprint goal means a high level what we are trying to deliver. Right. So in my current sprint, what we are trying to do is here, we are trying to deliver a functionality here for the claim enhancement, right? So in the claim enhancement, it's a big claim engine, but we are only particularly working in OBRA 93 enhancement right now, right? So we can say, okay, we are trying to deliver OBRA 90 enhancement for code coming from this application, because
Mhm.
there are 7 applications we have. They are all sending us a code, but we are only working on this application, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
that's our sprint goal right now. So we know that, okay, we working on these applications, this kind of claim, because claim is also, there is a lot of other claims, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So it defines what team is trying to deliver high level in this sprint.
Mhm. Great. What about story points? How are story points better than ours, and how do your team use story points?
Okay. So the story points, right? So
Mhm.
story point is individual unit for each and every story, right? The team defines based on the complexity, right? And you cannot relate the story points with the hours. But if you don't have a history for the team, right? There's no history for our team, right? But if we are doing a first sprint, we have new people. That time we can take some leverage out and we can say, okay, this story will take this many hours. So let's go to the uh, medium story point or big story point or the small story point just to start with. Okay. We should not continue that too long. Once we have a history for 2, 3 sprint, then we take a story point. Why? The reason being, for example, if you if you have to bike somewhere, right, with the bicycle from your home to the grocery store, it's a 5 miles, right? I have a 2 person. One says, okay, it will take me half an hour, and one says it will take me a week, right? So you may think why it is a week, right? Why is he's telling week? So we need to ask him, okay, why you are telling it will take a week, my friend? Can you tell me? And he said, you know what? I don't know how to bike, so I have
Mhm.
to learn how to bike,
Mhm.
right? So if he know already, if he knows how to bike, then it is a different story point. So gradually you will learn. So the team, if you're doing a first project, new team, you don't know the database, you do not know how it works, Unix database, DBAs, whatever it is, right? How the supporting team is helping. So it will take a longer time to deliver a small piece of code, right? And gradually you will know everything, people around you, the process, the company, the database, you have your tools together. Then in the same story point, you're going to deliver more. So the team matures. So it will start a very small thing, and in the same point, they will deliver more and more, right? And at certain point, it will graph will go, and gradually it's going to even it out, because at that point they have to be consistently delivered, right? They cannot stretch everything out. Now that there could be some instance when we have production defect, team may work little extra hard and do it, but that's not the team. That doesn't mean that team should do that all the time, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So
Mhm. Very interesting. So, what is like the strategy to man? First of all, who do you report up to? Who is your manager? Who is your person who you report to?
So different organization have a different people, right? So there is no
Mhm.
like a particular person I report to, whatever my department I have, right? I'm in product department. So product department have like so many directors, under which directors, which project is going. And under that project, who is the release manager, right? So I
Mhm.
report to my release manager.
And is that a safe train that you guys are doing?
So the organization wise, the human organization wise, right? The human structure is a matrix structure, so it is not
Mhm.
like a safe is how the product management work, right? How the
Mhm.
product is working. It is not the human
No, no, no.
resource
I mean,
metrics.
is your company using safe, or is your company using like what kind of philosophy is it?
Oh,
Do you
okay,
have
okay.
release
So
trains? Do
yes,
you have PI plannings?
so we have certain project working in the safe aspect of it, right?
Mhm.
We have uh, RTEs,
Mhm.
and we have a trains, right?
Sure.
For the trains. And we have certain project which only have 2 teams, right? And we working in the Scrum environment. And there are supporting team which is working in the Kanban board. So they're in the Kanban environment.
Mhm.
Right? So we have mix up based on what is the product demands.
Hmm. Very interesting. Now, what's the strategy that you use to manage upwards? By managing upwards, I mean, like, how do you report to your stakeholders? How do you handle a situation when the project or the budget is not going according to plan, and you have to report to your boss or your stakeholders? How do you handle that situation?
So the budget part is not mine. Honestly,
Hmm.
that's we have project management. They do it. We have a PM. He
Hmm.
took care of everything, not Scrum Master. Even though I do small PM part because I don't have current as such assigned PM to my project because my what we were assigned, he has a lot of other projects, so he's not actively taking part of it. So I take some part of the release management side of it and the
Hmm.
product management side of it, but not the management for the money and budget wise so far.
So how do you report to your management? How do you handle managing upwards? What's the strategy that you use?
So at the end of every sprints, right, I have a matrix which I show them that
Hmm.
okay, this is what we committed, this is what we completed,
Hmm.
this is what the defect we have. So product quality is also important,
Hmm.
right? And how predictable we are. So in last three sprint, right, what we committed versus what we delivered,
Hmm.
right? What is the variation? What is the delta? And if there is a reason behind delta, I also provide the valid reason, right? We are not doing variation just for sake of it. There is a
Hmm.
reason behind it, and we are doing for XYZ reason, you know. So
Oh, okay. Yeah. So you said bug defects. You're measuring
yeah,
velocity.
yeah.
What other metrics are you using, and what are the graphs that you use to track your work?
So we don't have any graph. We have a productivity, right? We
Hmm.
have a quality
Hmm.
and we have predictability. That's three things we measure and we show it to the management that how the team is maturing, you know, and
Hmm.
we can always compare with last three sprints.
Okay. And how do you measure, let's say, productivity using velocity?
Right. Uh, so productivity, right? So what we delivered and what we committed,
Uh-huh.
right? That's
Uh-huh.
our productivity and how is the variations and
Uh-huh.
how we are increasing, right? So what happened is we delivered 30 points in last
Uh-huh.
sprint. Now we
Uh-huh.
delivered 35.
Uh-huh.
Then we deliver 40. So
Yeah.
we are gradually increasing, right?
That's the velocity.
Right.
Yeah.
Uh, and then at certain point, we took 40. Then after, if you go for 45, we're going to miss it.
Yeah.
We only delivered 42, right?
Yeah.
Then we say, okay, we only going to take 42 and we delivered 40. So
Yeah.
that will even it out. Okay, now we don't want to take more than 40, you know?
Yeah. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. What about quality? So quality, you are using bug defect ratio.
Yeah.
You combine the amount of deep bugs that are coming in, and then you show that to management.
Yeah.
What about predictability? How are you using? Is that the same thing that you explained, or how are you using predictability?
Yeah. So means it's again that what we committed versus what
We completed. Yeah.
we delivered, right? And in last three sprints, what are our delta?
Mm,
If we are making less and less delta,
mm,
that is a good sign to do it, right? That
mm,
okay, we are not fluctuating much.
mm,
So we are going to our average point,
mm.
right?
So basically, velocity is one metric, bug defect is another metric, and then the delta between the like promised versus delivered. That's one
Yeah.
metric that you are using. That those are great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Generally what we use is we also use velocity. We use velocity for story points, how
Mhm.
many story points you promise versus delivered, and we also use sprint burn down charts within the process. We also use release burn down chart to show the process of the release so far and things like that, and bug defect ratio and all these metrics are also very good. You're using Jira right now
Yeah.
in your team.
Yeah.
Jira. So and Confluence, you create
Yeah.
Jira dashboards?
Yeah.
Mhm. What does a typical Jira dashboard look in your assessment?
Okay. So for Jira, right? So
Yeah.
I have the swim lane. So I do the lane two ways. So when I do my stand up, right?
Yeah.
Depends on how many team members I have. So I always have one tag on the top with the team member's name,
Yeah.
right? So if we have multiple stories, I go with this team member's name that, okay, Rakesh, can you please go with your three stories? And
Yeah.
then the next one I have Mohan who go with his stories. And then I
Yeah.
have Jonna, which go with her stories, right? So I
Yeah.
have the board which is having their stories,
Yeah.
which is in the backlog,
Mhm.
right? In the sprint backlog, and what is in progress right now, and what is done so far. So this is
Yeah.
the three tables I have, and I go with people's name.
Yeah.
Right? So
Very interesting. Okay, so that was great. This was a great session, and
sure,
thank you so much for your time. You have some
sure.
questions for me?
No, no, no. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time. And guys, if you want consultation help or if you want to meet with us one on one, go to the link down below, email us, or set up a consultation with us, and we'll be happy to do that. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe, and see you guys in the next one.